Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 1 in English with spoilers. Fauda Season 3, Episode 1, Recap and Key Developments. Setting and context. Time jump. The season begins about 6 months after the end of Season 2. Doran is deep undercover in the West Bank, living under an alias and working as a boxing trainer coach. The undercover assignment is placed in a Hamas stronghold neighborhood, giving Doran proximity to players he hopes to surveil or influence. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Doran's new identity and cover role. Doran poses as an Israeli Arab boxing instructor, handling a small boxing club in Hebron. He aims to get close to Bashar Hamdan, played by Al-Adaka, a young man whose cousin Fawzi, Amir Khatib, is rising within Hamas. Bashar becomes the entry point to infiltrate the networks around Fawzi. Bashar's father, Jihad Hamdan, is released from prison after 20 years. This release has symbolic and political weight, and it complicates Doran's undercover work. 2. Hamas operatives cross into the West Bank. A group of Hamas operatives from Gaza infiltrate into the West Bank, an unusual crossing that raises warning signs in Israeli intelligence and among Doran's team. Their presence is a red flag. It suggests that Hamas seeks to re-establish footprint or command structures deeper in the West Bank. Doran's mission becomes more urgent and dangerous. 3. Doran's inner conflict and stakes. Doran's undercover life is emotionally taxing. He must maintain his false identity while bearing the weight of watching Bashar be used. The moral dilemma is stark: to use someone he cares about, Bashar, as a pawn in the mission, which may betray or harm him. The emotional gravity of that choice looms large. 4. Tensions with team and leadership. Doran's team is back together. Steve, Abichai, Eli, Sagi, and others resume operations. The dynamics among them show strain, especially as Doran's decisions weigh heavily. HeLa Bashan, the head of the Gaza desk, emerges as a powerful figure. She pushes Doran to use Bashar as leverage to reach Fawzi, sharpening the tension about how much risk to take. 5. Plot twist: Imminent Threat. The show hints that Doran's mission takes a sharp turn. Intelligence surfaces about an imminent attack. What began as surveillance escalates into urgent crisis. The attack threat forces Doran to reconsider the risk to his cover and to Bashar. His decisions must now balance secrecy and action. Key themes and character dynamics. Undercover tension and identity. Doran's balancing act between his real identity and his assumed one is a major undercurrent. Instrumentalization. Bashar becomes a bridge figure used by Doran Israeli intelligence to reach Fawzi, raising ethical questions. Trauma and aftermath. The emotional scars from past seasons haunt Doran. 6 months of distance have not healed wounds. Radicalization pathways. The episode begins to chart how an initially apolitical person, like Bashar, can be drawn into extremism under pressure. Moral cost of mission. The show asks whether the ends justify the means, especially when using innocence as tools. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 2, English, spoilers. Fauda S3E2, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title and synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the synopsis for Episode 2 says, "The search for Fawzi intensifies in the wake of the attack. Doran goes back undercover but faces increased suspicion and scrutiny." IMDb's episode listing mentions, Doran is determined to stop Fawz by any means. HeLa Bashan, the new head of the Gaza desk in the security service, pushes him to use Bashar to get to him. Doran is unsure whether he should risk the young boxer, but understands this as the best option. So Episode 2 deepens the undercover drama, raises moral stakes, and escalates the pressure on both sides. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Intensified hunt for Fawzi. After the events of Episode 1, Doran and his team redouble efforts to locate Fawzi, who is becoming a central figure in Hamas's new operational changes. The intelligence network is under strain, leads are scarce, and the urgency is high. Every clue is analyzed: communications, movements of known associates, shaky informants, and Doran pushes his team to act more aggressively. 2. Doran returns undercover. Doran formally recommits to his undercover persona as the boxing instructor in Hebron. He must maintain his cover, but this time with more danger. Suspicion is growing around him. Anything he does, visiting certain neighborhoods, meeting certain people, making certain moves, can draw attention and risk exposing the facade. 3. HeLa Bashan's pressure and strategic use of Bashar. HeLa Bashan, the new head of the Gaza desk in Israeli intelligence security services, exerts pressure on Doran to use Bashar Hamdan, the boxer, as a conduit to get to Fawzi. She sees Bashar as the bridge into Hamas's inner circles. The conflict is moral and tactical. Doran must decide how much risk to put on Bashar, how much to manipulate someone he's growing closer to, and how much to trust his instincts versus obeying orders. 4. Doran's dilemma. Risking Bashar. Doran struggles with the moral weight of putting Bashar in harm's way. Bashar is not a hardened militant, he's a young man doing boxing, with dreams and relationships, and Doran knows that using him as a pawn comes at a cost. He debates whether the operational gain justifies the personal risk. His internal conflict is a key emotional throwline this episode. 5. Rising suspicion and scrutiny. Because Doran is operating undercover, he's under increasing scrutiny by local surveillance, informants, or parties who suspect someone is meddling in affairs they don't fully understand. Any misstep, being seen in suspicious locations, interacting with known suspects, heightens danger. The tension is palpable. The risk of exposure looms large. Themes and character dynamics. Trust and manipulation. With Bashar being drawn into the operation, the show continues interrogating when using someone you care about becomes betrayal. Moral burden of undercover work. Doran must reconcile his mission's demands with the personal cost, including the well-being of someone he's entrusted with. The fine line of exposure. Undercover work is inherently fragile. Small errors or misjudgments can unravel months of preparation. Transformation and agency. Bashar's role may shift. He is no longer just a naive boxer but becomes a node in the political and militant web. His choices, loyalties, and transformations will matter. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 3, English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E3, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the synopsis reads, Abu Muhammad gives Jihad an ultimatum, a raid turns deadly, Doran pushes to extract Bashar as the walls close in. IMDb's listing for episode number 3.3 notes, Doran is fearful for Bashar, who disappears. An operation to find the Hamas terrorists ends with bad results. Bashar, who doesn't know what to do, asks help from his father. So in episode 3, the pressure builds, loyalties are tested, and the stakes rise dramatically for Doran, Bashar, and Jihad. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Abu Muhammad's ultimatum to Jihad. The episode opens with Abu Muhammad, a high-level Hamas commander operating from Gaza or in liaison, issuing a stark ultimatum to Jihad Hamdan, Bashar's father. The demand is for Jihad to bring Bashar, or hand him over, or face dire consequences. This places Jihad in a moral and operational squeeze: protect his son, or comply to preserve broader alliances and safety. 2. Bashar's disappearance and fear. Under the pressure of Abu Muhammad's demand, Bashar disappears. He goes off the grid, vanishing from his usual routines. Doran, who has by now become close to Bashar, is alarmed and feels a personal responsibility to locate him. Doran's undercover role becomes more precarious. His concern for Bashar is no longer professional but deeply personal. He fears for his safety, his integrity, and how the disappearance might compromise the mission. 3. A raid that ends badly. Doran's team organizes a raid on suspected Hamas or militant locations, guided by intelligence they believe is solid. But the raid goes off course. It turns deadly, resulting in casualties or unintended collateral damage. The failed operation heightens the consequences: mistrust from local populations, internal criticism from higher command, and an intensifying urgency to salvage the mission before things spiral further. 4. Doran attempts extraction. With Bashar missing and danger looming, Doran aggressively pushes to extract him, meaning to locate him swiftly and bring him back to safety or under surveillance. The walls close in, as obstructing forces mount. This push may involve covert infiltration, using contacts, or deploying riskier tactics, each move carrying higher stakes of exposure or betrayal. 5. Bashar's dilemma and turning to his father. Bashar, shaken and uncertain, reaches out for help, in particular, to his father Jihad, not because he wants to become a militant necessarily, but because he's desperate. He's caught between survival and ideology, between loyalty to his family and forces pushing him toward violence. His emotional state is fragile. The disappearance, threats around him, and the rupture of trust with Doran all contribute to internal conflict. He's forced to reassess whom he can rely on. Themes and character dynamics. Familial loyalty versus political pressure. Jihad's ultimatum forces him to choose between his role as father and his obligations or pressures from militant leadership. His love for Bashar clashes with survival logic. Undercover vulnerability. Doran's closeness to Bashar makes him vulnerable. His dual role, protector and operative, becomes increasingly dangerous as emotional lines blur. Consequences of violence. The failed raid shows that militarized actions carry high risk, loss of lives, loss of legitimacy, and loss of tactical momentum. Identity and crisis. Bashar's disappearance highlights his crisis of identity: adolescent, protege, pawn, potential radical. He's being shaped by external forces faster than he can respond. Pressure of command. Doran must balance mission integrity, human cost, and his own emotional involvement. His decisions weigh heavy not just strategically but morally. Fauda Season 3, Episode 4 English, spoilers. Fauda S3E4, recap and key developments. Basic synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, Episode 4's synopsis is: Jihad and Nasser act after a decision sends Bashar deeper into danger. Abichai faces questions about the raid. HeLa opens up to Doran. On IMDb, the episode is described: the army chases Bashar and his father. The two make plans to get out of their difficult situation, but it tolls a heavy price. Meanwhile, Abichai deals with his mistake. So this is a tense episode where the pressure tightens around Bashar and his father, Jihad, with Doran's team trying to keep pace while dealing with internal consequences. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Pursuit and danger for Bashar and Jihad. The episode begins with the Israeli forces army actively chasing Bashar and his father Jihad. Their escape routes are limited, and the net is closing in. Under duress, Jihad and Bashar must make difficult decisions about how far to run, where to hide, or whom to trust. The weight of danger tests their father-son bond and endurance. 2. Consequences of previous actions. The decisions made in earlier episodes, especially about intelligence, betrayals, and manipulations, come back to haunt them. The decision that sends Bashar deeper into danger, as Rotten Tomatoes notes, likely refers to a tactical or strategic move that backfires, forcing them deeper into jeopardy. That decision may be related to Jihad stepping in to protect Bashar, or a choice of route, alliance, or hiding place that compromises their safety. 3. Abichai's accountability. Meanwhile, Abichai, one of Doran's unit, is struggling with guilt or scrutiny over a past mistake, perhaps from the failed raid in the previous episode or collateral damage from operations. He faces questioning or internal conflict about whether his error jeopardized the mission or endangered others. This subplot highlights the human cost, even for operatives. 4. HeLa opens up to Doran. In a more personal vein, HeLa Bashan, head of the Gaza desk in Israeli intelligence, has an emotional, vulnerable moment with Doran. She may reveal more of her thoughts, doubts, motivations, or the burden she carries in managing operations. This humanizes the boss decision-maker figure and deepens her relationship with Doran. The trust between them becomes more nuanced, blurring lines between professional cooperation and emotional connection. 5. Heavy price and tension. As the episode progresses, the hardship of being hunted becomes clear. Bashar and Jihad suffer physical, psychological, and ethical tolls. They might lose allies, face betrayals, or be forced to surrender options. The episode's tone is one of inevitability. Every escape route is harder, every move more costly. 6. Climactic Turn, setup for next. The climax likely sees Bashar and Jihad cornered or forced into a high-stakes gambit to survive. Meanwhile, Doran's team, Abichai's conscience, and HeLa's emotional opening all converge to set up Episode 5's escalating stakes. Themes and character insights. Consequence and escalation. The choices made earlier in the season catch up. There is no clean path out once conflict is in motion. Father and son under fire. The relationship between Jihad and Bashar is central, tested by danger, loyalty, and the demands of survival. Burden of leadership and mistakes. Abichai's subplot emphasizes that behind every mission are human actors who err, and those errors carry weight. Power and vulnerability. HeLa's opening to Doran shows that even those behind command walls feel doubt and emotional strain. Trapped paths. As the chase tightens, characters are forced into impossible choices, where every direction has risk. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 5 in English. Spoilers ahead. Fauda S3E5, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title and synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, with Doran and his team close on their heels, a desperate Bashar and Jihad follow a bold plan to elude capture. On IMDb episode listings. All security services are in pursuit of Bashar and Jihad, trying to stop a catastrophe, but Jihad manages to stay ahead of them. Reddit discussion. All security services are in pursuit of Bashar and Jihad, trying to stop a catastrophe, but Jihad manages to stay ahead of them. So Episode 5 is a tense chase episode. As Israel's forces close in, Bashar and his father Jihad are pushed to extreme measures to survive and evade capture. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Pursuit intensifies. The Israeli security apparatus mobilizes major resources to capture Bashar and Jihad. Intelligence, field units, informants, and checkpoints are all being leveraged to cut off their escape paths. The net is tightening on them, roads blocked, surveillance stepped up, and operational pressure mounts. There is little rest or safe zone for the father-son pair. 2. Jihad's tactical maneuvers. Recognizing how close they are to capture, Jihad uses his experience and contacts to stay one step ahead. He leads Bashar through routes, safe houses, alliances, and decoys. He orchestrates moves that confuse the pursuing forces, false leads, diversions, and leveraging terrain. His ability to anticipate is tested, and he is under extreme stress. 3. Doran's guilt and desperation. Meanwhile, Doran feels increasing guilt over how much of Bashar's plight has been caused by his undercover operation and manipulations. He pushes himself and his team harder, hoping to rescue Bashar before irreversible damage is done. But emotional weight and the consequences of past decisions hinder clarity and effectiveness. 4. No success in fixing the situation. Doran and his team attempt various strategies, covert tracking, intercepts, agent work, but each move is met with complications. The phrase, tries to fix the situation with no success, from IMDb listing, suggests that their interventions are reactive, incomplete, or failing to reach their intended goal. 5. Climactic Escape. The episode builds toward a high-stakes moment where Bashar and Jihad must choose either to surrender or to take drastic risks, crossing borders, hiding with armed groups, or using guerrilla tactics to remain free. Jihad's planning and intuition allow them to slip through the net again, evading capture at the last possible moment. Themes and character dynamics. Cat and mouse tactical pressure. This episode emphasizes the tension between hunter and hunted. The chase isn't just physical. Every decision, every route, every moment is psychological warfare. Parental protection and moral burden. Jihad's role is central. He is a father protecting his son, making choices that risk everything. His past as a militant and present as protector clash. Guilt and responsibility. Doran's emotional conflict deepens. He realizes that his operations have real human cost, and not just collateral, but lives he's entwined with. Survival instincts. When cornered, characters resort to primal survival tactics, deception, improvisation, sacrifice. The show highlights how under extreme pressure, morality can bend. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 6, English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E6, Recap and Key Developments. Episode Info, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, as the search for the hostages intensifies, HeLa turns to an old asset, and Doran's squad prepares for one of its riskiest operations yet. From IMDb, Jihad and Bashar lead their assets to Hani el-Jabari in Gaza. This saves Bashar's life, but he realizes that he is trapped. On the Israeli side, Doran is on the verge of despair and comes up with a rescue plan that nobody wants to hear about. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Leading assets to Hani el-Jabari, Gaza move. Jihad and Bashar guide their assets, people, intelligence sources, or allied contacts, into Gaza, toward Hani el-Jabari. This move is intended to bring them to relative safety or leverage, but it also deepens their entanglement. The journey is fraught. While the move saves Bashar from immediate threat, it becomes evident that they've traded one danger for another. They are now deeper inside hostile territory, with fewer safe routes. 2. Bashar's realization. He is trapped. As they reach Gaza and take refuge with Hani el-Jabari, Bashar realizes that their supposed sanctuary is more prison than refuge. The network of Hamas operatives, local politics, and internal surveillance means escape is almost impossible. The moment underscores the tragic character arc. Bashar's ambitions and naivete collide with realities of militia control and shadow power. 3. Doran's despair and proposed plan. Back on the Israeli side, Doran is on the brink of despair. The situation is spiraling. Losses, betrayals, pressure from command, and the moral cost of what he's done weigh heavily. Desperate, he conceives a rescue plan, something bold and risky, something that many in his team or command, nobody wants to hear about. The plan likely involves infiltration into Gaza, covert strikes, or leveraging unknown assets. 4. HeLa turning to old asset. Meanwhile, HeLa Bashan, head of the Gaza desk, seeks help from an old asset, someone from past operations whose knowledge or access might tip the balance. This move reflects how stretched resources are and how desperation forces revisiting old alliances. The reliance on past contact suggests that current intelligence and field options are failing. This is an act of necessity, not preference. 5. Preparation for a risky operation. Doran's unit prepares for what may be one of their most dangerous missions yet. They go over logistics, infiltration routes, support contingencies, and what to do if things go wrong. The tension is high. Small mistakes could be fatal. The episode ends with the stakes very high. Bashar and Jihad in Gaza and trapped, Doran pushing to crack Gaza's defenses from outside, the unit bracing itself, and past relationships and loyalties put to the test. Themes and character dynamics. Entrapment and consequence. Bashar's move into Gaza symbolizes that refuge in this world often comes with chains. The show underscores that crossing from safety to danger is easy, but the reverse path is riddled with obstacles. Desperation and leadership. Doran's despair and his plan that nobody wants to hear emphasize that leadership often involves bearing the burden of options deemed too risky by others. Reliance on hidden networks. HeLa's use of old assets highlights that in covert or conflict operations, past relationships matter, and resource scarcity forces revisiting them. Moral weight and agency. Every move by these characters has cost. Bashar's, Jihad's, Doran's. The episode explores how much agency remains when the environment closes in. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 7 English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E7, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the premise is, a hostage takes matters into his own hands, making the team's mission even more urgent. Bashar learns the upsetting truth about his situation. From IMDb, the episode's summary reads, Doran, Eli, Sagi and Abichai settle in Gaza. The dangers are behind every corner, and Eli starts to show signs of his post-trauma from a tragic event he was involved in. Putting these together, Episode 7 is a tense midpoint episode. The Israeli team is now operating in Gaza, internal pressures and hidden trauma surface, and Bashar confronts painful truths. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Team arrives in Gaza and begins operations. Doran, along with Eli, Sagi, and Abichai, relocate their base of operations into Gaza. This shift escalates danger. The team is now deep in hostile territory, under constant threat. Each street, checkpoint, alleyway is fraught. Intelligence must be precise. Any slip could expose their undercover status. 2. Eli's post-trauma surfaces. Eli begins showing signs of psychological distress. He is haunted by past missions in a tragic event that he was involved in. His mental state threatens his effectiveness and the unit's cohesion. The stress of operation in Gaza compounds Eli's internal struggle. He must balance duty with the lingering ghosts of past operations. 3. Hostage takes drastic action. The hostage subplot intensifies. A captive, pushed to the brink, takes matters into his own hands. This action forces the mission into new urgency. The team must respond immediately to prevent catastrophic fallout. The hostages' bold move disrupts plans, forces improvisation, and heightens risk for both sides. 4. Bashar learns a distressing truth. Bashar, increasingly entangled in the conflict, uncovers a harsh truth about his situation, likely related to the theft of his agency, betrayal by those he trusted, or the real stakes of the conflict he's been drawn into. This revelation shakes him emotionally and strategically, pushing him further along a path he may not fully want. 5. Morality, trust and tension. As the team navigates Gaza, trust becomes fragile. The dangers, behind every corner, comment hints that no environment is safe, informants, betrayals, deception lurk everywhere. Doran must balance his duty with the liabilities of his decisions, especially knowing how much Bashar already suffers. Themes and character dynamics, exposure and infiltration. Operating in Gaza brings Doran and team into deeply hostile territory. Cover is thinner, danger is constant, and every action has amplified consequence. Trauma and duty. HeLa's psychological breakdown highlights the emotional cost of conflict. Even elite operatives are vulnerable to past demons. Agency versus manipulation. The hostages' drastic act and Bashar's revelation underscore how powerless individuals may assert control in extreme circumstances, sometimes with unexpected consequences. Truth and betrayal. Bashar's journey becomes more tragic. Truths revealed are not just strategic, but personal, eroding trust and identity. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 8 English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E8, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title and synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes gives this summary. Saddled with a new responsibility, Jihad sees a chance to change his family's circumstances. Abu Muhammad faces fallout from the hostage fiasco. The episode listing on IMDb notes. The Hamas leader decides to have Bashar and Jihad guard Yara. To pressure them, Ayyub decides that Jihad's house in Daharia will be demolished. Hani realizes there are Israeli operatives in Gaza. So the episode centers on escalating pressure on Jihad and Bashar, internal maneuvering by Hamas leadership, and the exposure of Israeli infiltration. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Guard duty over Yara and new responsibilities. The Hamas leadership assigns Bashar and Jihad to guard Yara, a hostage or important detainee. This is not just symbolic, it ties them intimately to the internal power dynamics of Hamas. This assignment gives Jihad a chance to shift his family's standing, protect Yara well, earn favor, possibly negotiate leverage or safety for his son. 2. Ayyub's pressure tactics, demolishing Jihad's home. Ayyub, representing Israeli security operations, uses psychological and structural pressure. He orders that Jihad's house in Daharia, his hometown or residence, be demolished as leverage. This tactic is brutal but calculated. By threatening the home, he forces decisions, fears, and reactions. It's a direct hit on Jihad's roots and safety net. 3. Abu Muhammad faces fallout from hostage fiasco. Meanwhile, Abu Muhammad must deal with internal backlash. The hostage situation, from earlier episodes, did not go cleanly. There are consequences, loss of face, questions about competence, and internal dissent. His authority is challenged, and the mistakes in the hostage operations are used against him. 4. Hani realizes Israeli operatives in Gaza. Hani, a key Hamas figure, notices evidence that Israeli operatives have infiltrated Gaza. This revelation raises alarms among Hamas and forces internal coordination to counter espionage. The awareness of infiltration shifts the balance, no one is safe, and suspicion intensifies. 5. Tension and moral costs. Jihad and Bashar are under extreme pressure. Guarding Yara ties them to Hamas's cause in a way they can't avoid. Meanwhile, losing his home fractures Jihad's morale and leverage. The threat of Israeli operatives being inside Gaza makes the battlefield both external and internal. Betrayal, surveillance, mistrust become weapons. Bashar, who is already torn, must navigate loyalty, to his father, to Hamas, to himself, amid growing danger. 6. Cliffhanger and stakes raised. The episode ends raising several stakes. The demolition order looms, Yara's protection becomes a liability, Abu Muhammad's leadership is weakened, and infiltration becomes a major internal threat. Viewers are left uncertain. Can Jihad protect his family and his soul? Will Bashar survive the pressures assigned to him? Themes and character observations. Power and sacrifice. Jihad is forced to carry responsibilities, guarding Yara, that could either redeem or destroy him. The demolition order tests how much he will sacrifice for his family. Co-optation and control. Hamas uses control of individuals, e.g. compelling guard duty, to bind them to its cause, resisting deviation or independence. Infiltration and paranoia. As Hani senses operatives in Gaza, the series underscores how espionage and betrayal are constant. In war, suspicion is as dangerous as bullets. Identity under duress. Bashar and Jihad are forced to act in roles not fully of their choosing. They become actors in a larger game, pushed by both Israeli operations and Hamas internal politics. Collateral threats. Demolishing homes, demanding guard duty over people, using power as coercion, infrastructure, tradition, relationships all become battlegrounds. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 9 English, spoilers. Fauda S3E9, recap and key developments. Synopsis overview. According to Rotten Tomatoes, HeLa pushes the envelope after the team's operation goes sideways, forcing Eli into a charged decision. Doran faces a dire choice. From IMDb, the episode summary says Doran poses as a would-be suicide bomber to infiltrate close to his target. So in Episode 9, tensions reach a breaking point, operations falter, leadership is tested, and Doran must make a bold, risky move. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Operation goes sideways and HeLa's pressure. A key mission initiated by Doran's team derails, plans that were supposed to be precise instead become chaotic. HeLa Bashan, sensing the gravity of the failure, pushes beyond previous limits. She pressures the team to take riskier actions in order to regain momentum. Her intervention is no longer behind the scenes, it becomes front and center. 2. Eli's crucial decision under pressure. The fallout from the failed operation forces Eli, one of Doran's closest team members, into a moment of crisis. He's placed in a position where his choice will have serious consequences, for the mission, and for lives. The decision is charged, meaning it's loaded with moral, emotional, and tactical weight. His choice may save lives, or cost them. 3. Doran poses as a suicide bomber. In a daring and dangerous maneuver, Doran adopts the guise of a would-be suicide bomber to infiltrate a high-risk area and get close to his primary target. This risky disguise allows him to bypass security scrutiny and penetrate deeper into militant territory. This is one of the boldest actions he's taken so far, and puts him in extreme personal danger. 4. Doran faces a dire choice. As Doran progresses in his infiltration, he reaches a point where he must make a decision that could define his fate. His dire choice likely involves sacrificing his cover, risking exposure, or deciding between different possible targets or paths, each with trade-offs in lives, trust, or mission integrity. Themes and character insights. Risk and exposure. The disguise as a suicide bomber illustrates how far Doran is willing to go, exposing himself to maximal danger to get inside the enemy lines. Leadership under fire. HeLa's push and Eli's decision reflect how leadership and subordinates are tested when plans collapse. In crisis, authority and judgment are magnified. Morality versus mission. Doran's dire choice underscores a recurring Fauda tension. When does a mission's necessity override moral risk, especially when civilians or team safety are involved? Sacrifice and consequence. The episode emphasizes that every bold move carries a cost. In a show built on brinkmanship, sometimes the price is too high. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 10 with spoilers. Fauda S3E10, recap and key developments. Episode title, synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes describes the episode. Rejoined by an old ally, the team leans on Abu Muhammad while preparing for an all-out assault. Bashar discovers a betrayal and makes a move. IMDb. Episode number 3.10. The team is broken and desperate but refuse to abort the mission. They find the hiding place and get ready to raid it. Meanwhile, the news reach Israel and the families. So in Episode 10, tensions climax. The team prepares for a decisive raid, dynamics shift internally, and Bashar acts on revelations. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Team broken but resolute. The Israeli unit is emotionally strained and physically depleted after previous operations. Morale is low, resources are stretched, and the team is dispersed by losses and betrayals. Yet, despite despair and internal fissures, they refuse to call off their mission. They commit to pushing forward, recognizing that aborting now may cost even more. 2. Finding the hiding place and raid preparations. They locate the hiding spot of their targets, the fortress or safe house where the Hamas leadership, including Bashar or his allies, may be sheltered. The team orchestrates raid plans, inserts, timing, backup, exit routes, suppression of enemy fire. This is the build-up to a large, all-in assault. 3. Reunion with an old ally, support from Abu Muhammad. To bolster strength, the team seeks aid from an old ally, someone with access, intelligence, or influence in the Hamas Gaza network. This ally becomes a key support, offering logistical or informational leverage. They also lean on Abu Muhammad, a figure with deep roots and knowledge in the Hamas side, to provide inside assistance, possibly to create openings or reduce resistance. 4. Bashar's discovery and move. As the raid looms, Bashar uncovers a betrayal. Some close to him or in his midst has been working against him or revealing his location. The betrayal shakes his sense of trust and forces him to act. In response, Bashar takes a bold move, possibly trying to preempt the raid, escape, or redirect forces against his betrayer. His decision is high-risk and emotionally charged. 5. News reaches Israel and families react. Word of the impending raid or current military movements leaks back to Israel. The families of team members, and those connected to the conflict, learn of impending danger. This adds emotional stakes, fear, anxiety, stakes for personal lives. Some characters may confront their loved ones, plead, or resolve to see the mission through regardless of cost. Themes and character dynamics. Desperation and resolve. The episode underscores the toll of continuous conflict, yet the characters press on. Commitment becomes a form of resistance. Betrayal and trust. Bashar's discovery brings betrayal to the forefront. In a world of spies and secrets, the smallest leak can topple safety. Allies and compromises. Relying on old allies in Abu Muhammad reflects how, in war, moral purity gives way to alliances of necessity. Collateral stakes. The knowledge that families and innocents are watching adds emotional weight to every tactical decision. Climactic turning point. Episode 10 serves as the pivot before the final acts. This raid's success or failure will shape the season's resolution. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 11 with spoilers. Fauda S3E11, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the summary is: hardened, Bashar resolves to use Doran's strategy against him, the team mourns a loss, Doran confronts HeLa over her impulsive decision. On IMDb, the episode description says, Doran feels guilty and has difficulties dealing with the outcomes of the operation. Meanwhile in Gaza, the Sheikh tries to help Bashar. So in episode 11, tensions peak, Bashar becomes more hardened, the toll of past actions weighs on Doran, and confrontations between team members escalate. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Bashar hardens and uses Doran's strategies against him. After experiencing betrayals, losses, and escalating violence, Bashar is transformed. He resolves to mirror the tactics Doran used on him, turning the tables psychologically and strategically. He is no longer the passive pawn, he becomes an active, dangerous force. This shift means that what was once Doran's influence over Bashar is now a weapon Bashar may wield against Doran. 2. Team mourns a loss. The Israeli unit suffers a casualty or setback, someone close to them is lost. The team must absorb grief while under pressure. The emotional weight of losing an ally impacts morale, judgment, and unity. This loss forces reflection. How far are they willing to push? What is the cost? 3. Doran confronts HeLa over her decision. Doran, burdened with guilt and frustration, confronts HeLa Bashan about a prior impulsive decision she made, one that may have endangered lives, compromised operations, or shifted the moral balance. Their confrontation likely centers on blame, responsibility, and the burden of command, who must live with consequences, and who pays for decisions made in the heat of conflict. 4. Doran's guilt and emotional struggle. Throughout the episode, Doran wrestles with the aftermath of his operational decisions. He questions whether his actions, betrayals, and manipulation of Bashar contributed to the current crisis. The guilt corrodes his confidence, making him more vulnerable to mistakes, emotional impulses, or overcorrection. 5. Sheikh's attempt to help Bashar in Gaza. In Gaza, a sheikh, a respected figure within the militant, local leadership structure, tries to intervene or assist Bashar. This can take the form of protection, mediation, or counsel. But Bashar, now hardened and suspicious, may resist or manipulate such offers, seeing them as another attempt to control or contain him. Themes and character dynamics. Role reversal and power shift. Bashar's decision to use Doran's strategy against him marks a major pivot. He is no longer a subject of manipulation but an actor of violence and retribution. Cost of strategy and command. HeLa's impulsive decisions, whether authorized or not, carry consequences. Doran's confrontation with her highlights the tension between operational urgency and moral restraint. Guilt, responsibility and redemption. Doran's emotional arc in this episode shows how leaders must carry not only tactical burdens but moral ones. His guilt forces him to reassess his leadership, motives, and trust. Grief and motivation. The team's mourning shows that in war, casualty is inevitable. How one responds, by giving up, doubling down, or changing tactics, shapes the next acts. Faith and ideology. The Sheikh's attempt to influence Bashar indicates that militant structures are not just about weapons, they involve ideology, sanctity, and internal legitimacy. Bashar's resistance suggests his break from earlier identities. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 12 English, spoilers ahead. Fauda S3E12, Recap and Key Events. Episode Synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes describes the episode. Eli sends the team back into the field with a new member, while Bashar's plan for a knockout punch races toward a stunning end. On IMDb, the episode title and summary note. Episode number 3.12, Bashar returns to the West Bank promising to finally knock out the Israelis. All security organizations do what they can to stop him, but the chase is difficult. Thus, Episode 12 is the season finale. Bashar puts forth his final, high-stakes plan, Doran's team reengages, and the chase to stop him is full throttle. Major plot beats and scenes. Here are the main beats and turning points of Episode 12. 1. Team returns to field with new member. Doran's unit is reactivated and sent back into operational mode, now reinforced with a new member to bolster their capabilities as the stakes rise. The addition signals urgency. They know that the finale demands full force, more eyes, more backup, possibly new skills or insider perspectives. 2. Bashar's knockout punch plan. Bashar's ultimate plan, his knockout punch, is in full motion. He has resolved to strike in a manner that forces Israel, Doran, and the security forces to respond to his design. This punch is not just a tactical move, but a symbolic one. He seeks not just to inflict damage but to dominate on psychological and moral levels. 3. Bashar returns to the West Bank. Bashar moves back into the West Bank, re-entering Israeli-controlled or contested territory. This is bold and dangerous, as he has to traverse hostile zones, avoid detection, and execute his plan under intense pressure. His return is framed as a direct challenge. He's daring his opponents to stop him, promising to finally knock out the Israelis. 4. Full-scale pursuit and strategic chases. Security organizations, military, intelligence, and police are mobilized across West Bank and Gaza to locate, intercept, and stop Bashar's plan. All available forces do whatever they can to stop him. The chase is difficult. Bashar uses evasive tactics, shifting locations, and possibly inside help or leverage, making the task for Doran and team extremely hazardous. 5. Climactic confrontations and resolution. The finale builds toward a confrontation. Doran's team closes in, traps tighten, and fundamental stakes are revealed: who lives, who dies, who sacrifices. Bashar's plan reaches its apex. Whether his knockout punch lands or is thwarted depends on timing, betrayal, and how much Doran can counteract. In the final moments, emotional and moral threads tie back: how far Doran has compromised, how Bashar's transformation completes, and what is left broken between them. Themes and character implications. Full circle confrontation. Bashar coming back to the West Bank mirrors how Doran brought him into conflict. The arena returns to its original ground, escalating the personal stakes. Escalation and consequence. The knockout punch plan is not just revenge, it's the culmination of everything built through the season. The consequences are high: loyalty, betrayal and identity. All the betrayals, alliances, and manipulations come to head. Bashar's identity, once naive boxer, now radical, is tested in full glare. Sacrifice and loss. The finale likely involves losses, both physical and emotional. Characters will pay the price: loss of relationships, innocence, or life. Moral reckoning. Doran, Bashar, and others must face what they've done, how they've changed, and whether there is redemption or only ruin. If you liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel.